Hey, it's Steve Grant here from Steve Grant Health, and I'm here with one of our clinicians, Jane, who's a specialist in weight loss, PCOS, sports performance, and a whole bunch of other things as well. And in this video, we're going to tackle what's more effective for weight loss, exercise, or nutrition. So just to introduce this subject, like one thing that I've sort of noticed is that a lot of government guidelines and a lot of kind of interventions that the government puts out has a real emphasis on exercise as a tool to be able to help people lose weight and overcome obesity. And what we're going to discuss today is a little bit about whether exercise is that kind of like ideal tool for weight loss, and are there any other things that we really want to consider when it comes to exercise and weight loss. So Jane, do you want to kind of jump in, I guess, and kind of start with some of your initial thoughts on that subject?
Thanks, Steve. Well, it is good that, you say government guidelines telling people to exercise. Exercise is hugely important, and it can be a great tool for weight loss, but it's part of or it's a contributor, really. The main way that you're going to lose weight is by focusing on your nutrition, what you're putting into your body, and how much and specific nutrients that are going in. The exercise will predominantly focus on your health and making sure that your body is physically working effectively, getting stronger, fitter. But if you're wanting to lose weight, and particularly if you're trying to lose body fat, that is where nutrition is the biggest factor that you need to consider.
Cool. So what you're saying is that there are lots of benefits, obviously, to exercise, and it's important that we want to try and incorporate that into someone's weight loss regime, whether it's just kind of, I guess, more kind of like lower intensity stuff, or whether you can build in more high intensity work. But fundamentally, would you say it's just easier to create the deficit required for fat loss through nutrition than what it is through increase in activity?
So one of the main points I wanted to touch on was people saying that they are exercising a lot, but not really seeing the weight loss. So the body fat is staying stable. They're going to the gym regularly, but for some reason they're not looking at themselves or putting themselves on the scale and seeing the effects that they think they should have. And that is purely down to there's too much, calories, too much nutrition coming into the body, and the exercise is only doing so much. So to actually bring down your fat mass, you have to concentrate on just having the deficit from nutrition alone. And the exercise is just a given that just comes with it. It's just what you need to do to stay healthy, to aid sort of sleep, muscle protein synthesis for strength, insulin sensitivity. You can increase that with exercise. That will help towards that. But yeah, if it's fat loss you're after, then exercise will not do that alone. And if it does, it will take a much longer time for you to get the results you want.
Yeah, I think just touching on some of the research that they've got out there, which is that when they've taken populations of people and they've just gone, right, we want you to exercise X amount over this period of time, and then do what you want with your diet. And what they tend to find is that the weight loss results are relatively poor with people that are actually exercising, because you get what are called compensators. So as you're doing more exercise, then you tend to compensate with just eating more food. So exercise acts as an appetite stimulator, basically. So people tend to just eat more. So unless you're mindful and actually thinking about what you're putting into the body, it then becomes quite challenging to create the deficit that's required to be able to drop body fat. And then there's also kind of other research which is quite interesting, which looks at how there can be kind of adaptations in terms of energy output based upon intense exercise as well. So sometimes the body kind of compensates a little bit from a metabolic perspective when someone's doing kind of like more intense activity, that can actually kind of sometimes reduce some of the energy output as a compensatory tool for that as well. So I guess here's a kind of quick one then. Do you have any kind of like tips in relation to kind of like weight loss and exercise, like things that people might want to, from a positive perspective, things that people might want to focus on, why they want to exercise, rather than thinking about it as a way of losing weight and creating a deficit? What other things might they want to focus on?
So think of exercise rather than thinking it as a weight loss strategy, improving your fitness, improving your strength, stamina, sleep, mental health. That's what exercise is good for. Longevity, just keeping your body and all your kind of physiological mechanisms working really well and just feeling good, both psychologically and physically. That is what exercise is for, making your body work at its optimum level. So yeah, killing it at the gym is a good thing, and we should be, incorporating exercise on a daily basis if we can, as much as possible. But do it for your health, for maintaining weight, and just having a good balance in life. But nutrition is key.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think when people switch their kind of focus with exercise onto more kind of like performance-based stuff and other kind of aspects of health, then it tends to stick a little bit longer. And I think when you look at the research in terms of long-term weight loss, when people have actually lost weight and then able to maintain that weight loss, then usually the population of people that are able to maintain some form of exercise as part of their lifestyle have a much better chance of maintaining weight loss. So it becomes part of that overall picture. But like you say, it's a tool in the toolbox, but it's not the kind of be all and end all for weight loss, essentially.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much wraps it up. Is there anything else that you want to add to that, Jane, or does that pretty much cover it for you? Is there any sort of final summary points that you want to say?
Just to summarize, I guess if we covered everything, yeah, exercise, do it. It's important. It's imperative, but don't give too much credit to calories that you're losing from the exercise. Again, as you already said, Steve, sometimes it's not actually accurate. It's what you're bringing into your body. And that is for specifically fat loss. If you're an athlete, then that changes things. But yeah, exercise is wonderful, but don't give it too much credit for weight loss.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier before we jumped on this, that you kind of touched on a little bit there, is with the tracking apps and with like exercise machines and things like that. A lot of these kind of tracking apps give you this kind of like quota, shall we say, for when you exercise. It adds on additional calories to what you're able to eat that day, or exercise machines kind of predict how much energy you would have expended. These things are notoriously inaccurate anyway. And I think, like what you said, the most important thing is to try and figure out where you want your calories and macros to be from a weight loss perspective, and then to figure out a nutrition plan that enables you to be able to deliver on the calories and macros that you're trying to achieve. The bonus that exercise brings is that potentially it can create maybe subtly a little bit more of a deficit, but I wouldn't incorporate the energy burnt through exercise as part of those numbers and equations, unless of course someone is kind of more of an athlete where you're having to really think about how much they're training. So I think the more it ramps up in terms of intensity of training and performance-based goals and things like that, then you have to obviously really think about what you're going to do with kind of calories and macros. But you still fundamentally, if weight loss is a goal, even with that, you still have to create the deficit that's required to be able to drop body fat, no matter where someone's numbers are, basically.
Exactly. I mean, it's a completely different scenario. Someone's trying to maybe go up in a weight category for an event, build a muscle mass. Then it's super important how much you're kind of outputting with exercise. But I'm so glad you mentioned about the tracking apps and that, because there are many people who I've seen who will say, oh, well, because I went and walked the dog and took a few hills into it, and my watch is telling me that I've burned X amount, so now I can go home and have that Snickers I've been dying for all day. No, no. Sorry, but no. So that is essentially what I'm getting at. So don't give it too much credit. Don't allow yourself to be convinced by, say, exercise machines, apps, watches, all that. Focus on the nutrition for fat loss. Don't focus on these digits that are coming in telling you, oh, you've burned off this and you've burned off that. Chances are it's not accurate, and anyway, it's not going to help by allowing that to give you sort of permission to then indulge in not very good foods.
Yeah. Cool. Brilliant. Thanks, Jane. So I really appreciate your time on this matter. So if anyone's interested, if anyone wants to work with Jane at all, You can get in touch with us. You can either just go to stevegranthealth.com and then you can fill out the forms there, or email us on inquiries@stevegranthealth.com or admin@stevegranthealth.com, and we'll be able to deal with your inquiry from there. Cool. Thanks very much. Cheers, Jane.
Cheers. Thanks a million. Bye.